What's going on YouTube? Counting Gains back here again, man. So today we got a fire video, man. This one's gonna be a very controversial one. It's basically a Andrew Tate video interview with Mr. Piers Morgan, guys. For those who don't know, man, Piers Morgan, you know, he's just like a big presenter in the BBC in England, stuff like that. He left it, went to America, came back. He tried to get Americans to ban guns, and then Americans were like, nah, we're not banning guns, bro, F off. So then he left, and now he's come back to his own program called Uncensored. So he's like uncensored, but really he's like just as much for censorship as everybody else. So he's just basically debating Mr. Andrew Tate today. This video is called "He is Kind and Generous. Women Defends Andrew Tate's Character." This is a snippet from the Andrew Tate interview that comes out later on this week, probably tomorrow or Saturday. YouTube is very predictable, guys, so let's get straight to it. I want to be one of the first people on YouTube to have this video up. Like and comment down below what you guys think about this, man. Make sure to comment, tell me what you guys think, man. Also subscribe, man, and let's get it, man. The most controversial man in the world at the minute, guys, is still talking. Let's go.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Andrew Tate is banned from social media for his videos about mainly women, but when exactly does free speech become hate speech, and who should get to decide that? Joining me now, our political journalist Ava Santino and Talk TV contributor Esther Kraku, author and podcaster and friend of Andrew Tate, Leah Halpern, and Times columnist Hugo Rifkin. Hugo, let me start with you. Thank you for joining the show. I read your big Times interview with this guy, Andrew Tate. I found it very interesting because I knew I was going to interview him on television shortly afterwards. And what I was struck by was that although you were pretty outraged by some of the stuff he said and done and found it personally pretty offensive, you didn't really seem to be able to conclude that he'd really crossed a line that deserved the punishment he's received in terms of social media wipeout. Would that be a fair categorization?
Yes, I wasn't convinced because I'm not quite sure what debate we're having here. It seems a given to me that there would be no place for Andrew Tate on a normal, conventional media outlet. They're not going to give him your show. They're not going to give him my show on Times Radio. That wouldn't happen. But it raises the question of whether we think that these tech companies, Instagram, Facebook, companies like that, ought to be being held to the same standards as traditional media.
Yeah, that's what it's becoming nowadays, guys. Like, they're not getting these mainstream shows like on RT, like in Ireland, or like BBC, like in England, or Fox News, or CNN, or one of these shows in America. But on the internet, guys, it should kind of be like a free-for-all. That's kind of what the internet was made for, you know what I mean?
If we think they should be, then obviously he has no place in them. If we think they're actually more of a much more free arena, where things that we might find in other places unacceptable are in fact acceptable there, then it becomes a whole different debate. And that's a debate we haven't quite settled, I think.
Right, because, I mean, to me, it's like when Trump got removed from Twitter and Facebook and so on. If you're going to let the Ayatollah of Iran continue to have active accounts on these platforms, I don't see the consistency in banning a president of the United States or indeed someone like Andrew Tate.
I'm not defending Trump, but I will defend Tate because he didn't do anything wrong. Trump is different. He's political, stupid, but guys, ISIS have an account on Twitter. You guys just Google ISIS. They have loads of propaganda videos showing up, talking about their own stuff. It's not beheading videos, but they have like an account. So, this is complete hypocrisy, guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite fair. You've also got to accept that, look, huge numbers of people wanted to watch him. Huge numbers of people wanted to listen to him. He's very, very good at what he does. In an earlier age, there were people like Andrew Tate who put out cassettes and CDs, or were on, various forms of pirate radio. They had huge audiences. The audiences are much, much huger now, and they are and much less policed. They have much greater inroads, people like Tate, into teenagers, for example. So it raises whole new questions, whole new issues. I'm not always convinced that just banning them is quite the right answer, but then I'm not sure I'd quite like to be making that call myself.
Right, I think that's a really good point. Leah Halpern, you're in Miami. You know Andrew Tate. You've been to his home in Romania. You know his brother. What kind of guy is he? I mean, many people who don't know much about him will hear some of the stuff he's been saying, which I play to him and challenge him on in the interview, and they'll be horrified. But what do you think?
He's an incredibly intelligent man. I think what he's doing is very important. Right now, there's a huge war on masculinity. Men don't really have any kind of role model that they can look up to.
Well, that's not true. We have a lot of me as a man speaking myself. We have a lot of role models, guys. Like Wes Watson, David Goggins. Who else do I look up to? A good few people like that, guys. People that are like, military guys or whatever like that. People that are like pretty masculine, like that you can look up to, pretty like determined, like how to make money, stuff like that. That do pretty that do pretty well, and they're pretty morally correct. Just Andrew Tate is kind of a bit on, out left field when it comes to some of his takes, but definitely funny and intelligent, yeah.
Andrew has been very kind and very generous with me. Like I said, I know him personally. I also know him from a business standpoint. I've spent time with him one-on-one. I've never felt uncomfortable. He's never been inappropriate with me. A lot of people accuse him of misogyny. He's never been...
I thought Tate was trying to put the moves on it right there for a second, guys. I know you guys thought that shit too.
misogynistic towards me. And I think what he's doing is incredibly important.
Okay, Eva Tantina, your view of this. I mean, just from the exchange we just put a preview of, where he says he prefers 18, 19-year-old women to 25-year-olds. I think you're 25, aren't you? But, when he generalises about 25-year-old women...
She's 25. She kind of looks older, guys. What do you guys think, man?
In the really,
no hate,
I thought, pretty repulsive manner that he did in public. I think that is misogyny, actually, because he's branding a whole category of women in a very offensive way.
I think it's close to misogyny. I think it's actually more looking at women as objectively sexual objects, which inherently is misogynistic. But it's looking for purity in women. What he's essentially saying between those lines is that he wants some sort of virginal woman. Maybe that's why he takes this girl seriously. I don't know. But I mean, it kind of sounds a little bit like...
But he's, on the other side, he's allowed to. I mean, he can have these views. Does anything that he says... or the stuff that you've seen with him, does it cross a line where he deserves to be expunged from all social media, to be banished from the internet?
When you've got to look at the reaction that came off that, so the people who were duetting his videos or the people who were spreading his messages, when you've got 15-year-old boys espousing these sort of views where you're talking about women in purely sexual terms, and that has come from Andrew Tate, and that's
not a good thing, guys. Obviously, that's not. I don't think that's what Tate's trying to portray, but. Obviously, because I'm 27, guys, 28 nearly. Well, actually, I've just turned 27. Let's not try and age myself here. But, you can definitely, when you're younger in school and stuff, you're a lot more impressionable, guys. They don't know how to distinguish, trolling and, reality and, how to actually conduct yourself properly. They're trying to work their way through that. Whereas, as when you're older, you can kind of break that down quite easily. And, yeah, that's not a good thing, right?
That's where the problem is.
What do you think?
I don't actually think that's a very fair assessment. He didn't say, I only date 19-year-olds, or I prefer. He was making the point, and he could have phrased it better, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's saying
which he did concede, actually, later in the interview.
But the point he's making is, and he's a very intelligent guy, like Leah was saying, so he knows what he's doing when he's saying that. Obviously, he's got a massive reaction from it, so clearly it's worked. But the point is, he's saying that younger women who have had less experience with men in general are more desirable because they don't come with a certain amount of baggage. Now, you could say there are women that are more experienced that come with less baggage because they know what they want, or they're more mature mentally.
But my view,
that's very true. Shout out to this lady.
Because you shouldn't be talking about women in that generalised way at all of any age group. I know a lot of 25-year-old women in my time. They're all very different. It's like the idea that you bracket them all in this.
Did Piers Morgan just suggest he's got with a lot of 25-year-olds in his time? Back in the day, obviously,
revolting way, which he did, which is just a lad in the nightclub kind of way. It's fine, but
that's a generalisation.
To do it with a big following, I think, is a malevolent influence.
And what is implied there is their sexual history. That is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But there are women that are 18 that have a more elaborate sexual history.
Well, let me ask Hugo. Hugo, you spent quite a lot of time with him for your big interview for the Times. What did you actually make of him by the end? When you came away, what did you think of him?
Oh, we got on very well, but then we were two men sitting in his cigar room, bantering. We had a good chat, and a very honest chat. I mean, we had a very similar conversation to the conversation you're having at the moment. I think in different circumstances, I wouldn't have liked to introduce him to my wife. I wouldn't have liked to have to hang out with him with my female friends. I think that'd be intensely uncomfortable. But I noticed the way that at the moment, what we're doing, we're debating whether or not he's nice. Whether or not the things he thinks are nice or right. What we're not debating is whether or not they should be allowed.
Right.
And I think it slightly worries me that we've drifted into thinking those are the same debates.
I agree. When did we already become the moral arbiters for whether people should be allowed a social media platform? I mean, let me go back to Leah. I mean, to me, you might find Andrew Tate's views offensive, unsavoury, misogynist, as I did on some occasions with him, although he made some concessions in the interview. I'm not sure by the end that I concluded he'd done anything really so heinous he deserved the punishment he's got. That was my real conclusion, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I don't think he said anything wrong. I think all he's doing is talking about reality. And I don't think it's misogynistic to say you prefer a woman that's 18 versus 25. It's literally just a sexual preference. It's the same reason why young women prefer older men.
Just to jump in, I don't think...
Cool.
Yeah, but Leah, I don't think that's the misogyny. I had this argument with my sons earlier when they saw the clip. the misogyny isn't that he has a preference for girls of 18, 19, and 25. The misogyny is in the way he talks about every woman who's 25.
So but that's
as if they're all the
yeah,
same.
right. It's a generalization, guys. Like, you can't just assume because a chick is older, they've had a body count, you know what I mean? Like 400 people, they're banging every NBA player, you know what I mean? In LA and shit. But, you know what I mean? Is that more likely? Maybe. But it kind of depends on where you live too, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you going to be... I don't know, guys. Yeah, that is a strange one. But what he means is, like, the older you get and shit, the more baggage it is to unravel. Like, that's why, like, when you're in your 20s, you probably don't date people in their 30s or whatever, or 40s. You know what I mean? Because there's just a different generation. It's kind of a weird thing as a guy. And then the opposite, too, like, you know what I mean? So...
And they've all been through this tawdry background, which he finds so distasteful. That's obviously ludicrous.
Well, I think he speaks with a lot of hyperbole. His goal was to go viral. Obviously, as Esther mentioned, not all 25-year-old women have been sleeping with every single man that they meet in a nightclub. So there's always exceptions. But I just think in general, a 25-year-old woman obviously has had more experience than an 18-year-old woman. And some men prefer that. Some men don't like that. And I think that's completely fine. I think what really scares me is the censorship that we see online. On Twitter, there's actually porn on Twitter.
Yeah.
You have terrorists on Twitter.
Yeah, I said that the last week, guys. I literally said that in the last video. The straight up porn, like the straight up terrorists, like ISIS have a page, guys, but they got rid of Tate. Like, it's just, bruh, like, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy shit. Like, you can't have terrorists on the shit. Like, actually, like, you know what I mean? This, like, the head of the Taliban's like preaching his messages on Twitter, and like the whole village is like, oh, look, you know, good messages, like, you know what I mean, or whatever. The freaking Kundar province is looking at freaking Twitter like, oh, you know what I mean? The freaking master, you know what I mean? The Taliban leader just tweeted some shit, like, you know, it's just crazy. It's just like crazy.
And yet a man who's just talking about reality and the real dynamics between men and women.
You know what? I have to say, Leia, I think you make a good point. I think the Taliban have Twitter accounts. The Ayatollah of Iran, he's threatened to wipe out Israel, has a Twitter account. You know, Donald Trump doesn't, Andrew Tate doesn't. Why? You know, I can't really get a satisfactory response from these platforms. It's a very interesting debate, I think, to be had. We're going to run the full interview with Andrew Tate. Well, the whole thing will appear on YouTube by the end of the week. We're going to run a good hour of it later in the week. It is a fascinating watch, I have to say. And you might like him, you might hate him. But the real question is, should he be banned? Thank you to my panel. Thank you to Hugo. Thank you to Leia. That's it from me.
I 100% do not think he should be banned, guys. I don't think people should be banned for just talking on the internet. Now, obviously, if you're trying to portray hate or whatever, you know what I mean, it comes down to each individual thing that he said. Maybe it should be taken to court. I mean, I think he is taking it to the Supreme Court in America. They're pretty good with handling shit. So, you know what I mean, sort that one out, guys. But what do you guys think, man? Leave in the comments down below. Like, Trump, I think he got deleted from Twitter. I think rightly so. Someone said because he tried to do the 6th of January riots and 4 people died and stuff like that, guys. But, you know, I don't think Tate ever actually hurt anyone or portrayed violence or anything like that. So there is that clear distinction between those two. You know what I mean? What do you guys think, man? I'd love to hear you guys' opinion, man. I love reacting to these different videos. I see Stevie Knight reacting to these as well, man. Shout out Stevie Knight, man. I love Stevie Knight. Another huge reactor. I look up to these reactors. They're absolute legends. I see a lot of different people reacting to this stuff. So, yeah, keep doing it, guys. You guys are kicking ass. I love you all, man. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.